Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, my cousin Steve. Well, I don't know why I'm the first caller this morning, but I wasn't I wasn't supposed to be, but I am so happy that I am because it's a very important moment. I think for Steve and for our family, and I would like to really sort of give him so much thanks and praise for his accomplishment in writing the book in regards to Captain Dias and to our grandfather Richard Lemuel McField. And I would also like to address that person who made the statement that you read, OC. And Steve is quite right. Everything he said this morning already, I agree completely. But that person to say that people shouldn't be recognized after they died, and they should be recognized before or during their life, and if not, then not at all. And Steve, I think, has just proved that just in what he's done and what he's said already. So I can almost just voice my objection and then move on. What I think is so magnificent about what he did is that, I mean, I think always that Steve works from incredible inspiration. He's very intuitive and what he says and what he writes, and the fact that he would be writing it at this time and paying attention to that story or those stories rather than something else, I must compliment him for that. Because I spent a lot of time writing myself, but I never focused on this family history and this island history to the extent in which Steve has done. And I think it's a great asset to the country. With regards to the importance in which culture and memory plays and stories plays and people having a sense of identity and that identity providing a source for cohesiveness is demonstrated in all sociological and historical and psychological studies. A people cannot be a people if they don't share a common past, but the past that they share must become a part of the future that they will also share, and that can only be so through storytelling, telling stories. I mean, history really began as storytelling and not basically as telling of facts, but telling of impressions, inspirations that one had gained from certain individuals or events or situations that others had experienced or oneself had experienced. And so I just want to not take it up any more time just to really say that Steve needs to be recognized for this great act. But when people read it, when people read his stories, because Steve is a great writer, Steve is a much better writer than I am, I'm telling you. And I always go to him and I said, man, I know you have to live and I know all of that, but you're a great writer. His prose is just fantastic. It flows like poetry. So I'm bigging him up this morning. I'm bigging him up this morning. And so it's well done. It's well done. Yeah.
before we go to our 8 o'clock news. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Osi.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. This is Dennis from Tivisa.
Yes, sir.
Morning, Dr. Maxfield.
Good morning, President Tibbetts.
I just wanted to congratulate you on your writing. I hope I get a copy. And also, this is not a correction, but this is just an extension of, I heard you, OC, advertising about the Seafarers National, what was it? National Heroes Day thing. Well, we had a meeting yesterday afternoon, and on the urging of cabinet, we have extended the deadline to I think it's the 14th of November.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. We can. Yeah, I did several online yesterday, and the online process is fairly easy.
Yeah, I know. We've had a lot of people come into the office there, and the office manager has assisted them tremendously. Also, OC, I heard you mention the happy birthday greetings to the lady in Easton, Miss Stella. Welcome. So happy birthday to her. And also, I don't know if you know her, but my only sister, Maxian Grant in the back, today is her 78th birthday. So happy birthday. Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know that, like I said, it wasn't a correction. It was just to extend. Yeah. So thank you all very much, and have a good day. And I hope to get that writing, Dr. Maxfield. Congrats, and I've read a lot about. As a matter of fact, I think it was his grandson that passed away some years ago, Roy Dias.
Yeah, Roy Dias was his grandson, but he also had a son called Kathleen Dias that went to England and died in Wales some time ago. I have copies of all the letters that he gave to the archives there. I have copies of those, but I haven't published those in this because I think that's a different story.
Well, now that you mention all this and you're doing the writing, maybe I can get that phone call that was promised so long ago.
highlighting the stories of these individuals, great people, like your father also, who was one of the first persons to become a captain with national bulk carriers on those great ships. And people forget that. People forget that. And one of the and then I said, and then I go on to say here that that I go on to say here that so just let me go back to the prologue. But I go on to say here that that we yeah I says um, yeah. Then this narrative is penned to explain why we must honor our people. It is also to remind us to keep focus on the good deeds that unite us and not to turn away from the rich importance of the oceans and seas that surround. The oceans and seas are the water roads that our ancestors sailing vessels used to bring us to where we are now. Indigenous cultures have traveled the oceans and seas lanes for millennia, communicating, trading, as well as trafficking in humans. Even when our national motto says that our islands were founded upon the sea, we now have visions of our existence based on air jet travel, cruise ship, and motor vessel luxury. We seem to forget the age of the sail and the iron men in the wooden ships that they managed and manured. This narrative is also significantly historically important because it is a vital part of our right to refuse to be, not to be. President Tibbetts, I want to thank you very much. Cayman Islands were very happy and satisfied. To the question whether he felt that if the Caymanians became independent, they could become like his country of origin, he gave a categorical yes. He expanded, saying that the people of the Cayman Islands were not experienced enough for independence. They needed the guidance of the mother country. He did not foresee a time when they could be able to manage their own affairs. I'll read that again. He said he did not foresee a time when the Caymanians could manage their own affairs. In all the countries which had become independent recently, there was chaos. They would not like to change from one colonial power they knew of to another one they did not know of. And he went on to say, and then there is a Mistress Cynthia Borden. Miss Borden is the wife of a Caymanian who was on a small plane traveling from the Cayman Islands to the United States on Good Friday, 1976, and which has been missing since then. You remember that, Orit?
Yes, yeah, Carlton.
Yes. It appeared that the plane crashed into the sea off Marathon, Florida. Mistress Borden delivered that Mrs. Borden believed that the 4 men on board were still alive and were in a neighboring territory. She made a personal appeal for finding her husband. And then Mr. Rupert Ebanks came next. Mr. Ebanks stated that he had been born and raised in the Cayman Islands. He had started as a seaman and later had been in the construction business. He was currently a civil servant attached to the Immigration Department. Mr. Ebanks asked the purpose of the United Nations visiting mission to the Cayman Islands. He was informed that the United Nations General Assembly met every year to discuss all matters concerning the world community, be it political, economic, social, or legal questions. One of the items dealt with by the General Assembly was that of colonial territories. For that purpose, the United Kingdom provided the General Assembly with information on territories under its administration. In order to ascertain the wishes of the people as to their status and to obtain first-hand information, the visiting missions were considered most useful, and that was the reasons why the United Kingdom had decided to invite the mission to the territory. Mr. Ebanks then stated that the territory was very well off. He did not know what the attitude of the United Kingdom in other territories was, but in the Cayman Islands it was excellent. Caymanians were content to remain a crown colony. In reply to a question, Mr. Ebanks said that the economic situation was fair and that the Cayman Islands had high employment standards. In his particular case, he said, he had come back from the sea to work in the islands and had later had to face the recession. There were no poor people in the Cayman Islands. Everybody had food, clothing, and shelter. And in general, most were employed and the public was quite content. He stated that the people were well represented in the government, and independence was no good for the islands because they were dependent on the tourism and international finance and had no natural resources. He agreed that it would be bad if all property were foreign owned. He went on to say, however, that when foreigners acquired land, it was theirs. There was a large percentage of foreigners who had taken up residence who had a deep interest in the free islands. The islands had high living standards and there was no unrest. On the matter of education, he said that there had been improvement over the last 10 years. There would be more improvements in the future. 20 years before, there had been only one primary school in the islands, and now they had a secondary school and a comprehensive school and an excellent curriculum. He stated that he believed that tax havens activities in islands should be scrutinized properly and controlled. They had had a bad experience with Interbank, but were nonetheless in pretty good shape. He also stated that improvements were needed in the medical, social, sports, community projects, and conservation fields. They could not have a social security system because they had no income tax. The matter of retirement funds was being brought before the Legislative Assembly. He considered them very necessary. As a civil servant, he said he was protected by insurance through the Civil Service Association. And he also said, although there were a number of expatriates in the civil service, Caymanians were moving on to those jobs as they became qualified. He found the housing situation satisfactory. Most people owned their homes, and the land was, and the houses were built on. It was true that a few people owned most of the land, he said. And Mr. Ebanks added that Caymanians enjoy freedom of choice. There were no restraints on it for employment. He had one last request for the mission. Caymanians should be left to decide.
Okay, with that, we're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record with Dr. Steve Macfield sharing the report of the United Nations mission to the Cayman Islands in April of 1977. We'll continue after headline news, so please stay tuned.
Cayman Bracken, Little Cayman, your station, your voice. All things Cayman, one radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported the results of 334 COVID-19 tests on Thursday. One was positive. That person is an asymptomatic traveler who returned a positive test result following routine screening. They remain in isolation until considered recovered. There are currently 708 people in isolation. The head of United Airlines says testing airline passengers for coronavirus is, quote, the key to reopening the world economy. The airline is starting COVID-19 tests on some flights from Newark Airport near New York to London Heathrow. Mr. Kirby said it could provide evidence that will convince governments to drop quarantine requirements for travelers. He said several countries have told United they are interested in using testing to open up their economies. But these countries, quote, want to make sure everything works. And a powerful earthquake has struck off Turkey's Aegean coast north of the Greek island of Samos. The 7-point magnitude quake was felt as far away as Athens and Istanbul. There's no word on casualties, but images from the Turkish city of Izmir showed buildings had collapsed. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record and the Age of Enlightenment. We're going to ask Dr. Steve Macfield to continue reading from that United Nations report, Doc.
Yes, the next speaker was Arlie J. Miller, what we call A.J. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Miller is the owner of the Eastern Queen restaurant at Bodden Town, Grand Cayman, and a former elected member of the Legislative Assembly. Mr. Miller stated that the current government was the best the Cayman Islands had ever had, and Caymanians wanted no change and no independence. He added that when the mission went to the public meetings at Bodden Town, they would have seen that 99.5% of the people agreed with his views. Caymanians wanted financial help from the United Kingdoms, but no other. Although other West Indian countries had gone to destruction, the Cayman Islands were the gem of the Caribbean. And in his opinion, it was a waste of time to come to the Cayman Islands to find out if the people wanted independence. After the purpose of the mission had been explained to him, Mr. Miller said that Caymanians did not want independence. They had no natural resources. If independence were declared the following day, the islands would be crippled and he would have to leave. He said that view had been made known to Mr. Stanley and Mr. Duff of the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office during their visit to the islands. Informed that the mission was there only to record the views of the people, Mr. Miller said that the mission would have a good opportunity for that the following day at Bordentown. And then the next person who came was Mr. Bertram Ebanks. The next person who came was Mr. Bertram Ebanks, Mistress Victoria Ebanks, and Mistress Grace Poweray.
Okay.
Mr. Ebanks, Miss Ebanks, Mr. Ebanks, Mrs. Ebanks, and Miss Poweray came to visit the mission together. Mr. Ebanks said that he was a small retailer. He was also a former civil servant and justice of the peace. And Mistress Ebanks and Mistress Poweray described themselves as housewives. Mr. Ebanks inquired about the purpose of the mission. After an explanation, he stated that Caymanians were doing well constitutionally. They were a happy, friendly people. They did not want independence. And he added that Caymanians did not consider themselves educated enough for independence and wanted to remain with the United Kingdom. Mistress Poweray agreed that Mr. Ebanks she agreed with Mr. Ebanks' comments. She stressed that Caymanians were not prepared for independence because they were not educated enough. Mr. Ebanks said that Caymanians could not attain independence at the present stage. Most teachers were expatriates. He went on to say that education and medical services should be upgraded. Nobody wanted independence because the islands had no natural resources and lagged far behind in industries. They had virtually no farms. Countries like the United States or Jamaica had doctors, teachers, industries, natural resources, while the Cayman Islands had nothing. Mistress Ebanks said that Caymanians wanted to continue as they were, and they were satisfied with the United Kingdom. If at any time they would become independent, they would. And then there was Mr. William Jackson. Mr. Jackson stated that he was a partially retired master mariner. He had been a seaman all his life. He read out a statement in which he said that neither he nor the members of his family nor any of his friends or anybody he knew wanted any change in the present constitution. He also said that they wished to remain a crown colony under the United Kingdom protection. Caymanians did not want self-government or independence. They were happy as they were and wanted to remain with the United Kingdom. Those were the feelings of the sensible population of the Cayman Islands. He asked the mission to convey that message to the United Nations. The Cayman Islands were not ready for self-government or independence and would not be even in the foreseeable future. After reading out his statement, Mr. Jackson added that the Cayman Islands had standards of living as high as those in any other country, including the United States. He said that Caymanians enjoyed all freedoms and done so even during the 2 world wars. Caymanians wanted to remain as they were, and he expressed his satisfaction that his views would be faithfully recorded and conveyed to the United Nations General Assembly. Mm-hmm. And then visit to the lobster parking plant on Cayman Brac on April 20th of April 1977. Captain Pete Tibbets briefed the mission and showed them around the plant, which is owned by the Little Cayman Trading Company Limited, a Caymanian company. Mm-hmm. Some of the rock lobster is imported from Costa Rica. The tails were packed into 10-pound pockets and then frozen to a temperature as low as 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The freezing capacity of the plant is 5,000 pounds or 2,268 kilograms in 24 hours. But the plant has a cold storage facility of up to 100,000 pounds for the 5,360,000 kilograms. The output is some 2,000 pounds, 907 kilograms a day, each costing CI $5 per pound. For FOB Cayman Islands, the quality of the product is up to hygienic standards approved by the Federal Food and Drug Administration of the United States and most of it is exported to that country by air. And then they visited to the Cayman Brac High School on the 20th of April 1977. Now, during the mission's visit to the Cayman Brac High School, Captain Cockernell, Captain Tibbetts, Mr. Foster, the Chief Secretary, Mr. Banks, the District Commissioner, and Mr. L. Pearson, the liaison officer, were also present. Mr. Lawrence Ryan, a Caymanian, the principal of the high school.
Okay, and I think they had, that was a typo there. That should have been Mr. James Ryan, I believe. Yes.
Yes. Briefed the mission and showed them around. The school operates on the same lines as the Cayman Islands High School on Grand Cayman. There were 182 students registered on the day of the visit, and the attendance was 166. Served 14 teachers and the principal. 4 of the teachers were Caymanians. 14 teachers and 4 of them were Caymanians. And then a visit to the Cayman Brac Hospital on the 20th of April 1977. The mission was received and shown around by Dr. Mohammed Sibili, the medical officer in charge. The hospital was built through voluntary contributions from the public, but the government had taken over the cost of running it. It had 10 beds, a laboratory, an X-ray room, and an operating theater, and it was served by 8 nurses. There were only 2 inpatients when the mission visited the hospital. Then there was a public meeting at the courthouse on Cayman Brac on the 20th of April, also 1977. Among those present were Mr. Foster, the Chief Secretary, Captain Cockernell, Captain Tibbetts, Mr. Pearson, and Mr. E. Banks, the District Commissioner. Altogether, some 25 persons attended, mainly by members of the Cayman Brac and Little Cayman Development Committee. The Chief Secretary opened the meeting by introducing the members of the mission and then asked its chairman to briefly explain the purpose of the mission. Mr. Wanabubu explained the mission's mandate, pointing out that it was up to the United Kingdom and the Cayman Islands to work out the future of the territory. The mission had gone there to gather first-hand information on the territory and to ascertain their wishes and aspirations. He took the opportunity to give a bird's-eye view of the range of activities undertaken by the United Nations, especially the value work carried out by the specialized agencies in the areas of economic and social development. He also emphasized that everyone was performance living in a world of independence, and no country should afford to live in isolation. Captain Tibbetts said that he would be a hypocrite if he said that he welcomed the United Nations group to Cayman Brac. However, he welcomed them as individuals. He continued by saying that if the United Nations were worried about conditions in the world, it should begin working elsewhere. For example, in southern Rhodesia, there was no class division in the Cayman Islands. He informed the mission that when Mr. Duff and Mr. Stanley of the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office visited the territory, they had been told that the Caymanians did not want to change the constitution. He would like the mission to convey the message to the United Nations. A member of the Development Committee asked why the United Nations had invited the mission to visit the territory. Mr. Dalton of the United Kingdom replied to the question, pointing out that the United Kingdom would not be in the way of any countries that wanted to be independent, nor would it force itself to change. United Nations visiting missions had been found to be very useful. Another speaker said that the support of the United Kingdom was very valued because it had guaranteed Caymanians freedom of assembly. Their security may lay in the presence of the United Kingdom, and there was no other guarantee of their security.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold there, Doc. We're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Stronger, wider, higher, lighter. The all-new Ford Ranger Raptor.
Powerfully built with a 2.0 diesel Panther engine and 210 horsepower. Modern with leather interior and 8-inch touchscreen, Sync 3 technology and power features. Tough. Built to handle the off-road with 4-wheel drive, terrain modes, and a 10-speed automatic transmission. Coming early October to Vamped Motors, Walkers Road. To find out more and to test drive the bold new Ford Ranger Raptor, visit Vamped Motors, Walkers Road, or call 949-8288.
Would you like to win some extra cash for Christmas? Yes, cash, cash, cash! Well, here's your chance to do so. The Cayman Islands Netball Association, CINA, is having their Cash-O-Rama fundraiser, which was postponed due to the lockdown. The Cash-O-Rama will now be held on December 19th at Constitution Hall, formerly the Georgetown Town Hall. There are 4 top prizes of $1,000 each, plus 10 prizes of $100 pure hard cold cash. You don't have to be present to win, so get your ticket today from any player or association member. Donation is only $15. All previous tickets purchased for the Cash-O-Rama will be honored. Great entertainment and food will be on sale. Proceeds from the event will go towards the netball development program that will help improve the international ranking of all the squads. The Cayman Islands Netball Association, Cash-O-Rama, coming December 19th. CINA, a registered charity organization.
What a great spot for lunch. I haven't been here in ages.
I saw it on Experience Cayman.
What's that?
It's a free online festival showcasing all the great things to do in Cayman.
Oh, that's so cool. I'll check it out for sure. Now, what are we having for lunch?
Experience Cayman is a celebration of everything local. To rediscover all the best things to see and do in the Cayman Islands, visit gov.ky/Experience Cayman and follow Experience Cayman on Facebook and Instagram. Brought to you by the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record, and in the age of enlightenment. And just before I pass the mic back over to Dr. Steve MacPhail, I just hope and I trust that in this 21st century, that we in the Cayman Islands, at least the majority of us in the Cayman Islands, have a little bit more confidence in our own abilities and in our future than being under the subjugation of others. I just hope and I trust that in this 21st century, more of us are not thinking like some of us thought in 1977. Over to you, Doc.
Yeah, continuing on with the meeting in the BRAC. Another member of the development committee said that the members of the mission were welcome as individuals, but not as members of the United Nations. The notice for the meeting had been quite short, or else there would have been a group of people to demonstrate. The development committee not only represented the people, but was of the people. The people of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman had a heritage that were very proud, and were very proud that their territory was a crown colony under the United Kingdom. A former member of the Legislative Assembly said that since nobody else would welcome the mission to the Cayman Brac, he welcomed the mission to Cayman Brac. He went on to explain that at the time of inviting the mission, the United Nations had told the United Kingdom had told the United Nations that the Caymanians, how the Caymanians felt. It was like telling the United Nations that if they did not believe what the United Nations had told them, they were free to send a group there to ascertain the situation for themselves. He went on to say that their islands were small, which led to insecurity without the mother country. Their heritage linked them with the United Kingdom. Besides political ties, he requested the mission to report what they had seen and heard from themselves. Caymanians were very happy with the constitution they had, which had worked well in the past 4 years. It was hoped that it would continue to do so. The country was prosperous because it was under the United Kingdom. That fact was what was attracting investments. Caymanians were quite aware that the United Kingdom was not what it used to be, but to them, the experience was that the United Kingdom carried with it a tremendous amount of respect in the world. An elderly gentleman observed that whenever they did so with the backing of their two small islands, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. They were small and might be insignificant, but their people were a proud people. For 300 years, they had been under United Kingdom administration. They were happy and felt that they had the best constitution that any country had had. They did not want any constitutional advance. If the time came for them to demand constitutional advance, they would do so. Britain did not need to tell them they needed it. Neither they needed it or not. Neither whether they needed it or not. They would leave no stones unturned to get it or to resist it. He asked the mission to take this message to the special committee. We are happy and satisfied with the constitution we have now, and we are happy and proud to be a United Kingdom crown colony. Another speaker reiterated that the territory was unique, for it had peace and tranquility. The rest of the world had destroyed peace and tranquility, and they did not want to emulate it. A young politician stated absolutely, positively, and definitely that they did not want to change their relationship with the United Kingdom as the mother country. They loved their heritage and they would die for their country. We hope that their children would also keep the isms out of the territory. If they needed the United Nations, they would call it, but the United Nations should not call them.
So I take it they didn't want capitalism either, because that's an ism.
Yes. A member of the mission explained the purpose of the mission in the context of the history of decolonization and current circumstances. Mr. Tibbets remarked that the Caymanians were predominantly Protestant, so they believe in a direct route. When the right time came, they would go direct to the United Kingdom. A former a member of the Executive Council said that what they had heard from the Prince people was what was expected. They were happy and proud that their country was a United Kingdom Crown colony. They closed the meeting, as is customary, by standing and singing God Save the Queen and a Caymanian national song, Beloved Isle Cayman. The words and music of the Caymanian national song were written in 1930 by the late Mistress Leela Shire, as Presbyterian Church organist.
And we should add to that the late Mrs. Leela Shire, that they still will not give the ultimate honor of making her a national hero, a song that is either sung or played every day.
Every day. And despite the written requests, the begging and the letters to the powers, the Executive Council, and now the Cabinet, she's still out there in limbo somewhere.
Well, you and I were talking about it this morning off the air, and we are both perplexed. Is there something that they know that we don't know, why they are reluctant or refusing not to give her that honor?
It has to be. Otherwise, what else would be their excuse? Mm-hmm. Is this something that we don't know? I mean, we have been calling for it. I have been calling for it. Her family have been calling for it. She has put in the work. She deserves it, and yet she's I would say other people has gotten it where she should have gotten it before some of them.
Well, we're not over COVID-19 yet, and and they're giving OBEs and whatever else for work being done with COVID. We don't know whether or not we're going to have a reversal like the other places, hopeful or not. And with the advice that is being given, and I don't want to downplay the role that they have played and the advice that they have given, and the fact that the politicians have followed it, but we're not over it yet, and years and years and years, and Miss Leela, and nothing.
Yes,
they haven't given her that.
It's not only the advice, but they're getting paid.
Exactly. Yes.
For the work that they're doing, that's what they were supposed to do.
That's true. Yeah.
That's what it's supposed
Anything
to
other
do.
than that would have meant they weren't doing their job.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then there's the public meeting at Bodden Town.
Yes, that's the one.
On the 20th of April, 1977. And the meeting was presided over by the great A.J. Miller.
Yes.
Among those present were the 4 elected members of the Executive Council and several elected members of the Legislative Assembly. Bodden Town is the constituency of Mr. G.H. Bodden, that's Haig Bodden, elected members for Agriculture and Natural Resources, and Mr. J.M. Bodden, that's Mr. Jim Bodden, Manoa Bodden, elected member for Tourism, Aviation and Trade. The meeting was attended by some 200 persons. Now, you notice in Cayman Bracken was only like 12, 14.
Yes.
And in Bodden Town, there's 200 persons. Mr. Miller opened the meeting by waving the Union Jack and asking the audience whether they wished to remain under the flag. The audience roared back with a resounding yes.
Rule Britannia.
Britannia rule the waves. Britons never shall be slaves.
But we shall enslave others.
Yes. After introductions, the first speaker was Mr. G.H. Bodden, Haig Bodden. He said that night was the finest hour for Bodden Town, and that people had turned out in great numbers to meet people who had come from all over the world from the greatest organization on earth. Now you can hear that with Haig.
Yep.
He went on to say that it was quite true that the people of Bodden Town and many other people did not really know what the United Nations stood for, and that was because the press around abroad, like the press at home, liked to portray only what was sensational and what was news rather than facts, which were good.
Sound like the press in those days weren't a friend of the government either.
Yes.
Okay, Doc, I'm going to hold you there. We're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. We will continue to share with you the report of the United Nations mission to the Cayman Islands in 1977 after this short commercial break.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay.
No one can stop me when I taste the feel.
Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
It's time to buy smart. It's time to buy Ropers. Find everything for your home and kitchen at low prices. Ropers. Appliances, dishware, bulk foods, and so much more. With huge savings. Ropers is stocked for your hurricane supplies. Don't cut back on your needs. Cut back on your spending with Ropers. Your neighborhood store. Value, integrity. Ropers Enterprises. 122 Industrial Way. Call 949-2511. Clean up your spending with Ropers. Ropers, providing products and services for better public health.
Green Turtle, modern solutions to get you through the new normal. Download the Green Turtle app now and top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination. Home delivery of laptops, tablets, phones, accessories, and iTunes and major online retailer gift cards. And now, home deliveries of groceries and courier service. Guaranteed delivery within 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Visit their list of products at greenturtle.ky or download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
The Honeymoon Over, the radio play, a CNCF production directed by Henry Mutu, is on your Radio Cayman. Tune in from September 2nd to October 31st, Wednesday nights at 7:30 and Saturday nights at 6:45 for the repeat broadcast. You might just hear some of Rundown's suspects in the cast of The Honeymoon Over, starring Giselle Webb as Corrine and Giovanni Ebanks as Dexter, alongside Harriet Vassell, Quincy Brown, Priscilla Pucci, Susan Watson, Shomari Scott, and Aidan Watler. Cayman Medical Supplies, Cayman's premier medical and pharmaceutical distributor, is pleased to support local talent. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Wynwood Center. Call them on 949-6211.
For the record with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orit Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McFeely, sharing with you excerpts from the report by the United Nations mission that visited the Cayman Islands in 1977. Now I know sometimes we may sound a little bit harsh, with what we say about the people and their responses and stuff. And we have to give them credit, and we have to also recognize the times that we were in at that point, 1977. Mm-hmm. There was turmoil. There was still threats in relation to Cuba, not knowing what's going to happen there as well. We knew around about that time was when the UK stopped the grant in aid to the Cayman Islands as well, which meant that any money that we got from them, we basically had to repay it and everything. So there was reason for concern. And when we compare 1977 to where we are today, it's like chalk and cheese.
That's right.
So we can understand their concerns. What what is disturbing to me, that despite the concerns, the economic concerns and everything else, where our head was at in terms of us not wanting to have control, full control over our own destiny. That's the part that bothers me.
Well, the part that bothers me is the lack of confidence in ourselves.
Yes.
And I mean, that still runs through the country today. The lack of confidence in ourselves, and that had been now transferred into a different crisis now, in that we believe that everybody has money who comes from abroad now is better than we are, and that even though a fool can get money and can flash it and spend it, we also believe that the fool with money now is also a person that we can take advice from. That's the problem that we have.
Yeah,
so, continuing on with the Bordentown meeting, it says the mission had come to the islands. This is what Haig is saying. It's telling the 200 people strong.
Mm-hmm.
Haig said the mission had come to the islands at the invitation of the United Kingdom government. Every person in the Cayman Islands wanted the territory to remain a crown colony, and as long as they wanted it to remain a crown colony, they had to accept a mission such as the one now visiting the islands. Mm-hmm. The reason was that, in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, the United Kingdom and all other great powers had to report at periodic intervals to the United Nations on the state of their colonies. The United Nations also requested that the United Kingdom allow fact-finding mission to visit its colonies so that they could confirm that the United Kingdom had told the United Nations about these colonies. He did not know what the United Kingdom had been saying about the territories, but he imagined the United Kingdom had told the United Nations that the Cayman Islands were a prized possession in the world. If they did not say so, they would be telling less than the truth, because the Cayman Islands were indeed a prized possession. Colonies and crown colonies were dying out. They were getting pretty scarce, and like diamonds, they were becoming very valuable. That's Haig flowery words. He believed that the United Kingdom would want to keep them as a colony, provided they wanted to be kept on. He placed special emphasis on that point because a few people were trying to make the people believe that the United Kingdom mission had come to the islands to give them independence. That was far from the truth. The mission had come to the islands as other missions had gone to other colonies, some owned by other powers, to find out just what was happening in those territories. They would go back to the United Nations and would report what they had found, heard and seen. They would report to the state of the economy, and it was to be hoped would also report on the very good government of the Cayman Islands, as well as on the stability and integrity of the people of the Cayman Islands had elected to run their country. They would report on the good health enjoyed by the people and on the fact that nobody suffered from malnutrition. They would report on the educational system. Although there was no university, there were no illiterates. Therefore, the mission would be able to take back a story which would be available not only to the United Nations but to the whole world. They were gathered there because the mission wanted to hear directly from the people themselves, and they wanted to hear how people like him behaved in government. They were lucky because Bordentown had been chosen as the venue for the meeting, and he would say that was it should have been, because Bordentown was the first capital of the Cayman Islands. As far back as 1837, when slavery was abolished, Captain Pratt had stood right there and told the Caymanians that slavery had been abolished. The emancipation of slaves was announced in Bordentown. Although for certain reasons, the seat of government had been moved to Georgetown, they were still proud to say that Bordentown remained the political capital of the Cayman Islands. The question of independence was not a new question in the islands. The issue had been put before the electorate in the general elections held in 1972 and again as late as the November 1976. The press had aired the issue also. Fortunately, he said, 99% of the people believed in the current government, and 99% of the people welcomed the mission to the Cayman Islands, so it could go back and tell the world that the Caymanians were satisfied. Mr. J.M. Borden, that would be Jim Borden, next addressed the meeting. He said that it was a great privilege to have people gathered there from practically every corner of the territory. They were going to explode the whole myth. He said that some Caymanians had been accused of wanting internal self-government and are promoting the independence issue, but they had told the electorate that if ever there was to be a change, the electorate would tell them whenever they needed any change. They had also been given an opportunity to air their feelings before the mission by having their representatives arrange for the mission to visit Bordentown. Someone is still on hold, and they had already been told they got a caller on hold, and we were told that since the United Kingdom was a state of member of the United Nations, it would allow such visits to its territories from time to time.
Okay, you want us to take a break there to take the caller? We have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. Morning, Rusty. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Very well. This is Dominic Ebanks. I just wanted to call, and I didn't want to touch too much on any history. Obviously, I'm listening and enjoying the show. Just wanted to put a question to Dr. Steve, and it's really regarding the CMEA, the Cayman Music and Entertainment Association. There seems to be a fraction of it that is split in two, almost to say, but only one part of it is recognized. I had seen where there was a meeting with the Minister Seymour, and I think Dr. Steve, you were there I don't know whether to directly represent the CMEA, but there are people asking questions as to when there should be the annual general meeting or elections in order to dissolve one board or re-elect another one, etc. The music industry and the scene in Cayman right now obviously is affected as well by tourism, and it's pretty much almost dead, if you can use that term. It's reviving itself in a local sense, but it's pretty much dead because of tourism. Now, the Music Association, you would assume, has a big responsibility in the sense of not only looking out for individual members' issues, but trying to lobby the entities like hotels and other places where have gotten concessions in the past, and basically where they would have offered more work to local entertainers. Now obviously those places are shut down and nothing is going on, but obviously a time like this would be where the CMA would be out there maybe lobbying with those people so that when things restart, that it would be able to secure jobs, because local musicians calling themselves bands, not particular DJs but musicians, they have sort of gone way down compared to back in the day, where the bands and stuff and the vocalists were the thing to go and listen to. Now, I'm not going to linger too much on that. I'll sit back and listen to you guys, but I just had that question for Dr. Steve as to what is the situation with the CMEA, and is it outside of the current norm for it to be calling off the elections for such a long period of time? I think someone was mentioning to me that it's been, could be up to 24 months or so that it had its last general election or whatever. But I'll listen in, gentlemen, and I don't want to take you too far off your topic of history, but obviously you're talking about slavery in a sense and emancipation, all that stuff, which is
sure.
But anyway, I'll leave it there. You gentlemen have a good weekend as well, and keep yourselves safe.
Thank you very much, and you do the same as well. Yeah, and a word on that.
I'm only the legal advisor for the Musicians Association, but I am not the person who is in charge of the administration of it, and I really haven't read the their articles of memorandum for some time now as to when they should have annual general meetings or when they should not. But it seems to me, from what I know of the two factions now within the boundaries, that it's the same old thing as what Gerard said about us. We all want to be captains, and if we can't be captains,
go down to the engine room and wreck
we go down to the regular room so the captain can't steer the ship out of the harbor. So that's what's happening now. It's the lack of unity, and it seems to me that we are, as a people, is like what the late Governor Long said about us also too, that we are very cruel to each other, and that's what he said. We're very cruel to each other. I belong to a faction of men like yourself, Roy Borden, Gilbert McLean, and
Dr. Frank,
Dr. Frank, and all of us, where we understand the art of compromise and the art of living and whatever, and if the group of us were ever people who were politically minded and who were running for politics and who did get elected, either one of us could be capo di capo. That would mean first among equals.
Yep.
And would not, whether you were first among equals, whether you were chief minister or prime minister, the rest of us wouldn't matter, because we know that you were capable of doing that. And there would not be any repercussions or any backbiting and backstabbing and so forth, because we come from a different era. Our education is quite different from most people, and we understand the stitch of unity. Yep. So it seems to me that is the faction. Whether or not they're having meetings or not, the problem that they have is this unity among the group of men and women.
Which is sad. We're going to take our last commercial break. Please stay tuned for the record with some enlightenment. We'll be back shortly.
No, man. My bill seem huge again, and I don't know what to do about it. I can look some help.
We can help. The Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure has teamed up with CUC to give you the chance to win a home energy makeover worth up to $20,000. Not only will this lower your utility bills, it will increase your home's value. We are also giving away 8 home energy audits worth up to $1,900 each. Open to all homeowners in Grand Cayman. Entry is now open via www.energy.gov.ky/competition. Proudly sponsored by CEL Cooling, Mitsubishi, Foam Pros, Cooling Pros, and more. Use less, save more. Enter today.
Stronger, wider, higher, lighter. The all-new Ford Ranger Raptor.
Powerfully built with a 2.0 diesel Panther engine and 210 horsepower. Modern with leather interior, an 8-inch touchscreen, Sync 3 technology, and power features. Tough, built to handle the off-road with 4-wheel drive, terrain modes, and 10-speed automatic transmission. Coming early October to Vamped Motors, Walkers Road. To find out more and to test drive the bold new Ford Ranger Raptor, visit Vamped Motors, Walkers Road, or call 949-8288.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Nominations for round 12 of the Proud of Them award scheme opened on the 30th day of September and were scheduled to close on October 21st. Today, I am pleased to announce the extension of the nomination period until October 31st. I implore you all to use this excellent opportunity to celebrate the remarkable accomplishments of some of the most extraordinary and talented youth within these Cayman Islands. Complete your nominations online using the new Youth Services Unit website at www.youthservices.ky. That is www.youthservices.ky. If you are not so inclined, then download a nomination form and submit the completed form by email to info.ysu@gov.ky. Help us to recognize excellence among youth in the Cayman Islands. Submit your nominations today. I thank you.
A message from the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, Minister for Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning with Dr. Steve MacPhail in the Age of Enlightenment. And that Bordentown meeting was quite long, and we had several speakers. So we're going to share as much as we can. I just want you to give yourself some time so that at the end, so that you can again remind our listeners about your book, the entitled "The Forgotten Great Mariners of the Cayman Islands." It's a booklet. It's not a whole lot of reading, but there's a lot more to come. There's a lot more, to come with this. This is just setting the stage for everything.
That's
really.
Right. It's just setting the stage for this particular person, especially for the National Heroes Day, to give information about his exploits, the things that he did.
Yes.
But but that's the reason. That's the reason for the cover. The cover will be the same as we go along, and the back page will be the same as we go along.
Yeah.
This story will also appear in the story that comes next.
Okay. Yes.
In the story that comes next, so that people will know this story that opens the
exactly.
the whole episodes, and as we go along, we will add more stuff to it.
Okay, and that's Captain Thomas Nelson Dias.
Yes.
Okay.
But I have more stuff. But it would not do justice to push all that stuff right now on National Heroes Day, because this is just for him to say why he should be honored for the bravery and the things that he did.
Exactly. Okay, let's see how much we can share about that Bordentown meeting now, Dom.
Yeah, so the meeting in Bordentown continued with Mr. Jim Borden. He said that he had also been given the opportunity to air their feelings before the mission by having their representatives arrange for the mission to visit Bordentown. And they had already been told, since the United Kingdom was a state member of the United Nations, it had to allow such visits to its territories from time to time to refuse what might indicate that they had something to hide. If the United Kingdom just went on telling the United Nations that everything was good in the Cayman Islands, the time might come when the United Nations would not believe it. Certain people who had been elected to represent the territory would try to make political hay by saying that they had nothing, that they had known nothing of the mission until the 18th of April 1977. Nothing could be further from the truth, because when Mr. Duff and Mr. Stanley came to the islands a few months ago, they had all gathered in the committee room of the Legislative Assembly and made arrangements for the visit of the mission. Every member of the Legislative Assembly had been present. It seemed to me then that some people had said that they didn't know anything about it.
Yes, they know about it. Yes.
He went on to say, the governor had mentioned it in his throne speech, and the press had carried it ever since. They were trying to make believe that that was not the case, not only because they were being led by people they had put in mothballs and intended to keep in mothballs, but because they were not happy at being assembled together in Bodden Town.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you there for a second. When you go on to the West Bay meeting now, and we'll do that at some other show possibly, Mr. Benson, when he spoke in West Bay, he said, "Oh, I am one of those that they referred to that they have put in mothballs." Yes, so that was so funny.
So I will call her.
You have a caller?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Doc, I'm gonna have to make you host the whole show from that chair rather than just reading. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Mr. Lucy, and good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning,
Very
sir.
interesting. I know you don't have much time left. My father is also one of those forgotten. He was mariner, and I remember David Pineda, my old friend, often saying to me, please write a book about your dad. You have to contribute. Anyhow, very interesting what you're saying. Also, it's also interesting to note, and I know this for a fact, Mr. Jim Bodden, often in his speeches and talking to people, and I think it was once on his manifesto, I can't be wrong with that I want to take the Cayman Islands as far away from the United Kingdom as possible. I remember him saying that.
Yes.
His idea was to have it become a Commonwealth state like Puerto Rico.
Okay.
That was his idea. But Miss Leela Ross was an Eden. Her mother was an Eden. I remember my mother, Nettie Eden, married Frederick McTaggart, and she should rightly be a hero. Or heroine, I guess you call it heroine. But I don't know why that was so. And I remember my mother taking me to visit her cousin Leela, she'd call her. She was the older sister to Dr. Roy. Also with that, I remember I was at the meeting in West Bay also. But with the understanding people have of independence, to my mind, a lot of people, of course, are very different Cayman now. With generational Caymanians are a majority by far, at times still in 77, but not so now. So very different landscape. The people think immediately overnight, if you decide to become independent and you do a referendum, which Jamaica never did, you would be a changed life immediately and all. That doesn't happen. You go on with your job the same way. Everything goes on the same way. Those who are working in machinery and mills and sugarcane fields and producing rum and the bauxite and so still go on with your jobs and it goes on much the same way. The only difference mainly you'll see would be that in the elected people, they now are fully in charge, and they would set up different ministries. I remember in Jamaica with the Minister of Defense and so forth, Minister of National Security. That came a little bit after, that good bit after. And also the Defense Force, the regiment, became much more under the direct control then of a Jamaican was Colonel David Smith. He was made Brigadier General. He served as a corporal in the Second World War and so forth. And I remember him very well. And things like that, the trade goes on big time. The embassy's there because I used to have to go to the embassy and get certificates from them to export things to those countries that those embassy officials were sent to there to be the ambassador or consulate, they call them, representative, and you had to get certificates, they have proper invoice and so forth, and stuff shipped out. And that happened before, and it happened after, that continued on. So the man's life doesn't really change at all. It's just a change in the political directorate, and then you see different things happening.
Yeah. Caller, we've reached the end of the show. I'm sorry. We're going to have to cut you off there. It's now 9:59. Doc, few seconds for you to have some closing comments and just to remind our audience about your booklet.
Yeah, the booklet is made especially for this National Hero Day to highlight the accomplishment of Captain Tom Dias. It will continue with all of the other forgotten great mariners of the Cayman Islands. I can think of so many of them: Captain Benny Bawden, Captain Warren Bawden. I can also think of
the Arches,
the Arches,
Hurlstones,
the Hurlstones, Captain Hurlstone's uncle from South Sound. I haven't heard anything much about him. Captain Wardell Rankin, Captain Leroy Watson, they were the first black captains on American ships that went into harbor, into port, into South Africa, into Cape Town, South Africa. And when the customs and immigration came aboard, and they were up in the wheelhouse, the two of them were up in the wheelhouse. They were both captains, but Wardell Rankin was Captain Watson's chief mate.
Okay.
And when the white Afrikaner came aboard and inquiring for the captain, and he says, "You're looking at him." And he did not understand Captain Leroy Watson, and it had been on for several minutes. And when they found out that Captain Leroy Watson was the captain of this huge American flag ship, and Wardell was his chief mate, it made the headlines all over South Africa in the newspapers, and their picture was in the newspapers and everything, because they had not seen that sort of thing before. Yeah. Those are the things I want to highlight. Captain Bonnie Dixon from East End, all those people, Captain Mr. Warren Conley's uncle, I think it was, one of those great captains, Captain Arnold Conley, Captain Arnold, and Captain Smiley. Although Captain Smiley is known as one of the first persons to start a public school in Cayman. He was also a great captain.
Okay.
Going into Boston from Cayman. And stuff. Remember that there's a book about his granddaughter.
Yes.
Sea
Captain's daughter.
Sea Captain's daughter. So I would like to get all of those things on the one great volume. And probably so I start with this first booklet here, and I have done a lot of research on all those other things, and I'm writing that. And as I go along, perhaps by the end of half of next year, I will be able to put out another pamphlet with a lot of other names. Yeah. But I wanted to get this out. I wanted to publish what I had now, highlighting Captain Tom.
Excellent.
And that's the reason why I say in this particular pamphlet here, it's about Captain Tom, but I'm not.
It doesn't end there.
It doesn't end there.
Okay.
That's just the beginning.
Doc, I want to thank you very much for being here again this morning, folks. I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work as well. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. So I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling, Dwayne Ebanks at 12:15 for Talk Today. Remember that the deadline for submission for nominations for Heroes Day has now been extended until the 14th of November. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Coca-Cola, available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery, Gallery, inspiring luxury, and Fidelity Bank. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by Ropers Enterprises, 122 Industrial Way. Products and services for better public health. Green Turtle. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today. And the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Visit energy.gov.ky/competition to win a home energy makeover